is amazing, and this is one of his best games of all time. And not only is it really impressive statistically, but also Niko gets some really impactful kills and hits some insane shots in ways that, I feel like a lot of the time you see a player that has like a 2.0 rating or something in a game and you're like, damn. And then you look and he gets a ton of like anti-ecos. Niko gets a few of those, but this is a lot of really impressive rifling against other rifles. But starting with pistol round, he's going to play in the smoke here. And what's really interesting in this game, actually, is that this is what's going to happen. He actually starts out this game like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 or something, and he still ends up turning this into like a 7-death game. I think he literally goes like 29 and 7 or something along those lines. Despite that's his first death, 0 kills on pistol round, which is unfortunate. Goes for a deagle. By the way, in Simple's course, he says that he always loves to buy a deagle on second round because he just gets a kill every time. And if you're Niko, I can understand doing exactly the same. Makes perfect sense. He's also got a Deagle Blaze, which I used to have one of those back when they were worthless, Anyways, this is actually, I don't know, I'm going to be kind of crazy on this one, but I think this shot is actually insane. He's going to get flashed from Monacy. This is just generally a really good play. Often you'll have riflers or oppers do this on gun rounds. And then he catches electronic, like he pre-aims him and then flicks after electronic, moves, looks away and looks down. So that head is tough to hit. Okay, maybe I'm just like, sometimes I feel like I get hype over like the dumbest stuff and everyone's just thinking, damn, Boo, what is wrong with you? Why are you thinking this? Anyways, through the smoke, Niko dies, round over. We don't care about anybody else's game. We just want to watch Niko, the best rifler of all time. Is that even debatable at this point? I feel like Niko is definitely the best rifler of all time, right? I guess like some Brazilians might argue Cold, but Niko's just had so much longevity, even though, and he's hit peaks like as good or better than Cold, I think. But I mean, Cold did have a major with like 1.4 plus rating that they won. Maybe there's an argument for like his peak but he played a different role as well. It's very different. Regardless, here's Niko, gonna be boosted on plat, and this is wild. All right, this round's wild. Now this round also, I'm gonna show you Hunter. I don't love Hunter, okay? I don't love Hunter that much. I'm not sure if it's in the bloodline, okay? If this Niko brilliance is actually in the bloodline. Because Niko's going to get this kill on Jame. Really nice shot. Well, I mean, that's an okay shot. That's the really nice shot. And then Hunter just feels like he's so scared. It just felt like Hunter was so scared to come through and actually fight with Niko. Maybe if they fought together. But in all fairness, it looks like they didn't expect a player could be Cat. And then if there's 2 CTs in that situation, or if there's 2 Ts in that situation at long, then you probably don't want Hunter coming through that smoke. He's just going to lose his life. So if there's a reason for them to believe that Cat is empty, and they're not just gambling that Cat's empty, then I can totally understand why he didn't come through. I just noticed that when I was watching this the first time, and I was like, why didn't he come through? Regardless, Niko is a very active player on the A side, and especially when Monacy isn't here, which is some of the time he's going to end up playing middle. Niko really is the guy that needs to be getting the job done on the A site and actually be supporting both short and long and supporting the mid hit, depending on the situation. Now, this round I actually thought was really funny because this is an interesting spot where Monacy's supposed to get the first contact. He's hopefully going to get a kill. Then the idea, I think, is that once he makes the first contact, they're going to chase him. They're going to swing out. And you're going to see the way electronic swings. That's what they're hoping for. And Niko's going to get that kill on the player swinging to kill Monacy. But if you watch Monacy, they're going to start moving forward. And Monacy is going to like fall and then have to jump back up. We'll show this from his POV. He falls, jumps back up. Niko behind him is swinging out at the same time. So Niko is thinking probably that Monacy's still going to be leading. They're going to go together. Monacy falls, Niko continues forward, makes contact, and then electronic swings in exactly the way you are kind of expecting him to swing onto Monacy, but he swings onto Niko and gets the kill. So I just thought that was kind of funny that essentially I'm pretty sure Monacy is really supposed to be the first one going there so that he can make contact and Niko gets the kill on the swing. but that's not what happens because the little ledge there is a little bit awkward to deal with. But this is a really nice 1v2 for m0NESY. They're not expecting him to come around that side of the smoke because in theory, m0NESY could go around the other side and spam Jame. So he gets them a little bit off guard. Obviously, m0NESY doesn't want to try and get into a spam battle with 13 health. So maybe if they knew he was low, they might more expect him to go around the other side. But they just gamble wrong, and m0NESY gets the kill and then finishes off Jame. Really nicely done. m0NESY also has a great series. But Dust 2, by the way, I was surprised VP actually picked Dust 2. I mean, when you look at G2, when they had Hooksy and Nexa, I could understand, you know, you might be happy to play them on Dust 2, especially when Hunter was kind of struggling a little more. But with the space that's being opened up by Snacks and especially by Malbs that can just create so much space by hitting some insane shots, and he's not worried about taking some 50-50 duels the way Nexa would always try and avoid those types of 50-50 engagements, right? So with the space being opened up and just the individual talent on G2 now, Dust 2 feels like a map that they should be really good at, and m0NESY should be, you know, a player that can absolutely dominate on Dust 2 because he's so mobile with the op and he's so fast with it. Dust 2 is a really good map for if you can have an opera that can take really quick shots and still rotate, you know, still get away with it, right? If you're a bit of a slower opera, then it feels like sometimes they can kind of get caught. I mean, it's still a good opera. It's still a good opera map, right? But m0NESY's mobility and like speed, I think, is actually a bigger factor on Dust 2 than some other maps. But I could be crazy. Who knows? Sometimes I think I'm crazy. Other times, I know I'm crazy. Anyways, Mob swings out. Niko ready for the trade. Nothing surprising there. 2v1. Jame actually gets into a really good spot here. So bomb planted. Jame's going to jump up. They're not really expecting this. They don't have a flash, so someone has to go in first. And it's tough for ops to trade, right? So you're going to send the op in first. m0NESY does it with his knife out. And this could have gone really wrong. In fact, it almost does go really wrong. Niko gets hit to 17 health. They're not expecting Jame in that exact position, right? The problem is they had no idea really where he was, and so you kind of have to lead in and hope that something goes well. And in that case, it was just Niko hit a pretty solid shot on the trade. It was like well done by him. Then they're playing against pistols. They're going to be, you know, Niko's going to be fairly aggressive, but he's loving this angle here quite often against VP. And I'm not actually sure if this is an angle Niko likes to hold in general, or if this is something that he just knows is effective against VP. Now, in VP's previous series when they played against Vitality, one of the things they were doing a lot was these types of mid-B splits. And if you're thinking that either side of the map is weak, then I think you're probably thinking the B side of the map is the weaker side when you're looking at G2. Not to slight Snacks or to slight Hunter, although I do that plenty. I think if you're looking Malbs, Niko, and m0NESY, or even if it's not Malbs, like even if Malbs was, even if it's like Hooksy, Niko, and m0NESY, you're probably like, probably Snacks and Hunter are a little easier to deal with. Anyway, Snacks leads in first. Niko's here for the trades, but Snacks doesn't die, so Snacks gets a few kills. On my spreadsheet, actually, Snacks is one of the bigger eco hunters, I will say, and I don't know. I'm not trying to say anything. Okay, people are gonna misconstrue this as me like, oh, you say Snacks sucks. When you look at Snacks, he does get a lot of anti-eco kills. Now the thing is, okay, Hooksy, Snacks does hunt anti-ecos for sure. The thing is that part of it is that Hooksy just does not do a very good job of killing anti-ecos, so it's, you know, he's gonna get less of them, right? Even though on gun rounds he's okay. Anyways, this is an interesting round because, well, you're going to see exactly why it's interesting, but I'll show you an extra little tidbit that I thought it was kind of cool. So Malbs is kind of the bait. Malbs, most importantly, stays alive long enough for Niko to get through this smoke, so they're distracted, because if Malbs dies a little bit earlier, what ends up happening is that they can just focus on the smoke, and Niko's going to have a tough time. But what I thought was really cool is one of the benefits of this play that Electronic is making, you have this player run very quickly up to the smoke to fight from right where Niko's fighting. Electronic actually runs into Niko. So one of the benefits of this angle is you can kind of get in front of this angle that Niko wants to go through. It ends up trapping him in the smoke, and you can fight beside it, and sometimes you'll see him run into you from your left side. It's actually just like one of the benefits of this angle. It's really effective. But because Electronic runs into Niko, like bumps him just as he gets there, he's in the wrong spot. I don't think he realizes someone even could be behind him. I think he thinks he's at the wall there, and Niko comes through behind him and gets all 3 kills, which is just, to me, that was hilarious. But this ends up being, I believe this just ends up being a save from VP. They get on a catwalk, and then they end up saving. I might be thinking of another round. Oh, they end up in B tons, and yeah, this is going to be over. So we're already 8 rounds in. Niko throwing this smoke. I wish there's faster ways to throw that smoke, but that's the way everyone seems to be throwing it. One of the things about this is actually a strat that's kind of, I think, meant to deal with this play from G2. So this play from G2, this long door smoke, the reason I didn't think it was really going to be that common, and it is common, but it's not like something teams run every round, is kind of for this idea because multiple players can get out before that smoke blooms, so you still have to worry that you could be fighting people really early on, and you still have to play as if an opper could be posted on you here at this corner. You still have to worry about it. So Mobs throws this early flash, then Niko's going to throw this flash here, and the problem is that Fame is already out. He sees it, turns from it, turns around, insta-kill onto Mobs, and then Niko just hits a couple of really nice shots, right? Like, I'll show this from Niko's POV, but Niko does hit a couple of really nice shots. I think this is a situation where, in a lot of scenarios, VP have a very good chance of winning that engagement, and that's the type of play as VP you're probably happy making against when you're running with an AK and several pistols, right? I think as VP you're fairly happy with the way that went. I mean, obviously you want to get multiple kills, but the reality is that a lot of the time if you just play, this is why I feel it's so hard to play against Spirit, because if you play against a rifler that's just hitting every shot, that's just not and knows it, so they're not scared of taking those engagements, every play you can make, it's just so easy for them to be smart, good plays that catch your opponents in kind of the setups you want them to be in, I feel like, and then you actually just still die, right? Because you can, CS is a game, it's kind of, at its essence, it's really about making your opponent's shots hard and your shots easy. But it doesn't matter how hard your opponent's shot is if he still hits it. You know what I mean? It's really it's tough to deal with. And with a rifle, there's no downtime the same way there is with an AWP. But anyways, Niko jump spotting here, gets a donkey of a nade, 20 damage on Electronic, 30 onto Fame, and he does this a bunch of times this game. He's got really, really good timings in this game with his nades, and in this round as well, you're gonna see him drop down here. He's got a nade. I think he's just waiting for Monacy to make the spot, and then he's going to toss the nade. And these nades actually, I think, are relevant to how the rest of the round plays out, because he tosses that nade down. Flit gets hit to 50, Electronic 55, Jame 55. Their whole team is like 60 health except for Norbert. So they're all injured, and it's very uncomfortable for VP here. And then you have Niko that's already having a great game, that I think already kind of knows that he's in a good spot. So this is the angle, by the way. Yeah, I said Niko's playing it a lot. That's one of the things that this angle is really fairly good against. It's the problem with this angle is if you do get mollied out, like if people know that you play there all the time, I feel like you can get mollied out and then, trapped, and you just have to swing and hope you win the engagement. But in this case, he gets the kill on the player dropping. They don't want to fight. And so the reason I thought the 50 health thing was relevant is it kind of feels like they're 4v5 here. VP's 4v5. There's 30 seconds on the clock. It really feels like a spot where if Flit was at 100 health, he would want to take this fight. Now, maybe he's thinking that, Hunter's maybe pivoted down towards middle. Maybe he's thinking that he doesn't actually want to commit to that type of engagement, which is fair and very possible. But it does feel like a fight that if Flit was at 100 health, he would definitely be more likely to take than with 50 health. And you can see exactly why someone with 50 health might want to not take that engagement. Then Mobs, I'll show the Mobs shot because the Mobs kill is actually really nice here. He gets flashed off, then he moves over. He's going to get this kill here. And then I think Niko wants to line up with Mobs, right? I think they want to be kind of fighting above each other, but they're just on different wavelengths here a little bit. And Mobs tries to get back into the same spot, but doesn't work. I think Niko's probably actually not thinking about lining up with Mobs, that Mobs is thinking about lining up with Niko, because Niko's just in a less advantageous position. He's probably just thinking, you know, get into the best spots possible to find the kills, you know, to actually get the kills. And if Mobs could line up with Niko, that would be beneficial. Maybe they would have traded on each other, but there's no guarantees regardless. Now Niko, round 10, he's got, what, 13 and 5? And it's really just going to be on the B side this round, right? I think he might, yeah, he's going to pick up the op here, and then he's going to end up somehow getting the kill onto Norbert and CT spawn, which is kind of what you're expecting. Norbert's going to drop down. Niko just hits the shot. One of the things in this series is that James actually was missing some pretty easy shots, I feel like. At least on Ancient, James really wasn't himself. And I think VP was just kind of off in this series. But it very well could have been that because they just don't have great economy a lot of this game, James didn't get warmed up with the op. Maybe that's also possible. But focusing more on Niko, one of the things that anti-stratting can do really well is find you unique timings where teams are very heavy in certain areas, because teams have their tendencies in the way they like to clear things, and that'll give you some timings on when they're in certain areas more than others. Not to say whether or not Niko actually has that information against VP, but that's definitely one of the biggest things about anti-stratting. I think that's why Astralis partially was so good with nades, is that, you know, they found those tendencies in opponents and could try to exploit them with opponents that were more often than not in certain positions at certain times. Anyways, Niko, one of the things about having a good game as a rifler is you can play like hyper aggressive, and then your opponents just have to be permanently worried about these sorts of like flash plays through smoke, or just someone retaking the area that you just took, right? Because they're comfortable taking engagements. Like, if you're not comfortable with the idea that they could just exec on you right now and you have to dodge a flash, spin back around and get 2 kills, then you might not want to be, you know, making that walk forward. But because Niko's feeling, you know, pretty comfortable with that, he can walk forward, and then he can have this flank timing where he's gonna take down Electronic, just not at all ready for him. Now that doesn't really make a difference in this round, but it is something that I think when you're VP, you're going to be more paranoid about those sorts of timings than you otherwise would be when a player like Niko is having a performance like he is. And when you have a player like Mobs on G2, I think that's one of the things that Mobs adds. Now, whether or not that's going to be around long term, because when you just join a team like this and there's not been a lot of practice, one of the benefits you have is that you've not been told not to do these plays that are pretty risky yet. And so we'll see if that sticks around, but I pray it does, because it makes it very uncomfortable for the other team. I always talk about this with like Stewie and Liquid, why like that little randomness factor is so important. Here, Niko's gonna show up on B and nade the smoke. It's really interesting. When you're so confident as Niko is in this game, you're gonna notice this timing. So Niko's gonna get this kill on James. Eventually, when does he get? There's the kill onto James, which is just a really nice kill. And then Fame is going to cross over to site, right? So Fame's going to go to plant the bomb. Norbert's watching window. It makes perfect sense. Now, Electronic isn't quite ready for this exact timing. Electronic's looking window, and then he goes, oh shit, I got to watch door. There's only a couple seconds there where there was an opening. But Niko, dude, he's feeling it, right? He knows he's going to hit these shots, so he's willing to take this type of risk in this type of situation. Now, it is Beyond Dust 2. You know, you probably are happy to take some extra risks in this type of retake, because if you don't, it's a tough site to retake regardless, but it is a relatively risky play, definitely one that works out, and it's a timing that I think a lot of it, when you look at pro CS at this level, like at the top level, a lot of the time you're looking at seconds. You're looking at seconds. I'll show you a clip, actually, with FaZe against Na'Vi yesterday, where it really comes down to seconds, where this is the round I was talking about, where the timing is what really matters, and after this round, FaZe is like face-palming, like, dude, we should have known that timing was possible. But Wonderful's going to start outer. He's got an AK. It's actually pistols for the rest of the team, for the most part. Are they forcing? No, they're kind of like semi-ecoing. I think Bit might have saved in the previous round. Also, Wonderful from Garage. He's going to end up getting himself a kill onto Frozen. He's going to move his way back. He's going to spam through the smoke. FaZe is going to rotate lower, and they know that they're trying to beat the rotate, right? They know that most of the rest of the team is on pistols. They rotate over, and they know that this rotate is possible, right? But they're just thinking they're going to beat this rotate here, that Wonderful is either going to be playing from ramp or he's going to take a little longer to make that rotate because he was in big garage. This is a long rotate. So they have a player pull out his utility and Wonderful's just in the right spot at the right time to get the 2K. And I think when I look at their reaction after the round, it's like, it's not that they don't know that play is possible, right? They know that that's a play Wonderful might want to make. They're just thinking Wonderful is going to stick around for an extra couple seconds at outer, that maybe he's going to wait for a second to see if they fall back, right? So they're not ready for that play at that exact moment. But the thing is, if Wonderful made that play a few seconds later, they would have been pretty much fully prepared for it, you know? Players know a play could happen, but they don't. They think it's not possible for an extra 3 to 4 seconds, so they try and set up a flank, or they try and, they try and optimize their angle. Watch window for as long as possible until I need to watch doors, or, sometimes there's just, you don't realize there's an opening until it's too late, right? But a lot of the time you're trying to optimize. And in doing so, if you can find that extra level of confidence where you can go for the aggressive play just a second or two earlier than normal, then you're going to catch players very unaware. But Niko, P250 body armor, this is, man, getting a P250 one tap on pistol round really is one of the most, I feel like, it's one of them, it might even top Deagle, like 1D. It might even top a 1D. I'm going to be honest. A P250, like, swing out top mid on Mirage, one tap the guy in window. There's something about that that's just wild. Now, I want to note one thing here. Hunter does a lot of damage to Flit here, and I think he calls it. I think he must call it. I'm going to look at this, what it looks like from Hunter's POV, because yeah, he's gonna call us to Niko. He's gonna call it Flit's lit, because Flit in theory should probably win this. Flit's gonna be aiming not this scenario. Okay, to be clear, it's not this scenario that he should probably be winning necessarily. It's the how many shots Niko misses basically. But Flit's permanently aiming for the head. Niko misses a couple shots. He just goes for the body shots, and Niko actually takes a lot of shots to hit Flit twice. I think he kills him in 2 shots. But if you look at from like Flit's POV, I think he wins this more often than not. Right? He definitely had the ability to get the shot. Niko makes it very hard to hit that. Absolutely. But this is one of those ones where, like, if you watch my Donk video on the main channel, one of the things about Donk, the game I showed a game on Overpass where it was one of his best games of the tournament, but he had a very low time to damage in that game. And the reality is, when you're going to have one of your best games ever, you're going to have to play really well, and also your opponents are going to have to not just insta-give you. You know what I mean? So it's not like really like Flit whiff there. It's just, I think more often than not, if Niko's going to take that many shots, he probably ends up dying. I don't know. Man, I add all these caveats because people in the comments don't understand what I'm talking about, and then they're like, I will get endlessly shit on for like something that it's just like, dude, I know that, I just didn't like explain. One of the things I on my main channel, that I specifically try to not over explain things. I try and explain it in like, the reality is that to make a video entertaining, I feel you have to explain things without adding, because there's always 15, 20, 30 different cases where something isn't quite exactly 100% the case. Like, it's like, well, this play is really good, but, it could go wrong like this. It could go wrong like that. Well, here's a scenario where it's not good. Here's another scenario where it's not good. It's like, yeah, but the reality is that for 99% of cases, and for like the level of gameplay that you're expecting the average player watching the video to have, generally, I could get away with not giving 30, 40, 50 caveats. And I've accepted that on my main channel, that it's really kind of aimed at, like mid-level players, like people, probably the aim is kind of like face it maybe 3 to face it 9 or something like that. It's not aimed at players that need every single possible scenario where like the entire ridiculous explanation is relevant. It's like, the play's good, and if it's only good 70% of the time, then the 28% explanation, the other 28% of the time, important. If it's good 98% of the time, and 1% of the time it's wrong because of this, and 1% of the time it's wrong because of that, it just seems unnecessary. But there will be like comments that are like calling me out for that. And I just kind of accept it on the main channel. But then on here, I'm expecting kind of probably a higher level, or at least more experienced, like more interested in full in-depth context stuff. And then I feel like I still over-explain it. I still over-explain it because I go into like extra detail to like make sure I can't get called an idiot. But I still get called an idiot fucking constantly, by the way, by people that just have no idea what they're talking about. You know, someone in my last video, hold on, we're taking a breather here. In my last video, okay, there's a fight on Mirage where Donk is fighting Snacks from bench on Mirage B to Cat, and he loses. And I go, Donk wins that. He's going to win that almost every time because Snacks had a fucking Galil too, which means he needed 2 headshots, I believe, to kill Donk. I'm pretty sure he had a Galil. And someone's like, at that range, the M4 is 3 headshots to kill. That's not an advantage. Bro, fucking what? What? Were you playing RPG servers? What do you mean fucking 3 shots to kill? And then someone else is like, the gun's not accurate at that range. And it's like, I don't know what fucking universe you're living in. Donk is supposed to kill Snacks in any straight up engagement, let alone one where he has a fucking M4A1S at bench at a headshot angle with Snacks running in directly forward with a Galil, okay? Or even with an AK if it was an AK. He wins that fucking every time, okay? Get out of my face, dude, if he's having a good game, I mean. Okay? Anyways, one thing I wish that Snacks had a flash. Snacks dropped the smoke over in this round. I'll show you. Okay, so Snacks drops the smoke over to his teammate here. Do I go far? Yeah. So Snacks drops the smoke over. I wish he had. Oh, he actually throws the smoke. My bad. I wish he had dropped his flash. I wish he had dropped his flash because if you look, Monacy has the only flash here. And I think this is something that I really like when teams do this. They smoke here and then they smoke here and they flash a player through. And it would be really nice if this was a coordinated play because Niko's going to try and go through this smoke. Well, the smoke misses, so there's a gap in the smoke is the problem. And he's going to try and go through the smoke. Niko really just finds the timing, but this would be so clean if Niko had a flash with this, and this play would work fucking flawlessly if he had a flash with it. The problem is, I don't think he plans to go through. I think he goes through because there's a smoke here, right? But imagine Donk or Monacy had a second flash, and he could flash Niko to go through this smoke. This would be so clean. But I mean, it's not. The play makes sense, right? It's not that the play doesn't really makes sense otherwise. It's just if Snacks had dropped the second flash to Monacy, maybe that's an option, right? But regardless, probably like 80% of people left. If I go in like the viewer retention data, fucking like 80% of the audience left after that one. All right. Anyways, Deagle 11-4. They're doing pretty well here, and I'm not sure if he actually gets any kills here. Gonna rotate back around to long. That's cool. He's got a Deagle and Snacks has an AK. This is like the simple, you know how you have like the Bogdan law? There must be like the Zeus law. Like we should have a name for this, you know what I mean? Because like best player, well, best rifler on team has Deagle. Worst rifler on team has AK. It was most notable with Zeus specifically because Zeus was kind of like the Hooksy of his time in terms of individual fragging. You know, he really struggled with it. But it seems like this happens a lot, and I think the idea is just that Niko with a Deagle is going to be pretty strong. Regardless, one of the things you notice here is that Fame goes for this swing. This is not a play that VP go for very often. And in fact, G2 are ready for this play very, very often. I find it funny though, Fame drops a flash over to his teammate here, over to Flit. And I thought the idea was that Flit was supposed to flash middle because this play is a little delayed, especially because they failed the boost, I think, initially. But Fame swings out not at all expecting Niko in that position and just dies. And then Flit now is kind of alone, and I just thought the fact that he dropped the flash almost looked like he was expecting his teammate to flash. Like, that's not common. A lot of the time what you'll have is if you're going for this type of cat swing, when I see other teams do it, they flash from mid. They flash like here, which makes a lot of sense. But I guess you could flash over also. But maybe he was just dropping the flash because he knew he was taking like a really risky engagement, and it's better to drop the flash, which makes perfect sense, really. And I think you're still gambling that nobody's at top mid like that. You're just gambling that you're in a good spot or that guy top mid isn't quite ready for you. So it is what it is. But regardless, Niko, 26-6 this game. Unbelievable gameplay. Bro's back. Homeboy is back. The question is, though, can he maintain? Can he keep this up? Because he's been a bit inconsistent in CS2, but in recent months, even before cutting Hooksy, his consistency has gone up a lot. And then if you have a player like Malbs, who is creating a lot of space for you and actually getting entry kills on a lot of aggressive plays, that makes your opponents, that spreads them out a little bit and makes Niko's life a lot easier. And that can actually make him, perform much more effectively, potentially, and become much more consistent. Because if you look at what percent of his games are 1+ rating, it's at like 75 right now. And during his best years, I think it's like 82, 83, 84. And a lot of those you have... Rifling is very finicky, man. Rifling is really finicky. It's hard to have your aim be so good like how Donk has it, where it's like, oh yeah, just every round I run in first, and somehow I fucking kill people every time, even when I'm at like super disadvantageous engagements. It's hard to have that, right? Sometimes you're going to have off games. And if you have teammates that can make space for you to make it a little bit easier, best case scenario,